Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's QE Babble. Today's event is called Hiring, a View from the Inside. So we've all seen it. There are jobs on this platform and elsewhere with literally hundreds of applicants. And often it's not uncommon to see over 250 people apply for a QA role now. So for a job seeker, understandably, these kind of figures can be really quite bewildering. We're here today to talk about what positive steps people can take to stand out and get noticed, but also how does it actually work from an employer's point of view, and how on earth do they go about screening that number of people to select the best ones? So today we want to do something slightly different. So we've actually brought along some people from the world of talent acquisition. After all, it's those teams who handle these huge number of applicants. So how do they see it from their side, and what actually happens to someone's CV once they've applied? Also, when we get past this stage, how does a hiring manager go about screening and reviewing CVs to create an effective shortlist without interviewing 50 candidates, which just frankly isn't practical? Without further ado, it is time to meet the panel today. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So with us today, we've got Andrew Clark, who is a TA lead for Global Logic. We've got Ross Wilding, who's head of talent for IDS. And we've got Kika Ganesan, who's the head of QA over at Deco. So hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Before we kick off, I just wanted to remind everyone watching along today that this session is hopefully going to be quite interactive. So as well as going through a series of questions to ask the panel, it'd be great as you're watching along if you want to just type into the comments anything that you want the panel to answer, and we'll get to that in the second half. So without further ado, Andrew, I'll come to you first, if that's okay. If you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and what your role is, and if it's okay, answering that first question, which is what really happens to someone's CV when they apply for a job with you?
Okay, thanks, Matt. So I'm a talent acquisition lead for Global Logic UK and Ireland. Global Logic is an Hitachi-owned kind of Hitachi Group company, and we are kind of leaders in digital engineering. So we help kind of companies across the world design and build innovative products, platforms, and digital experiences for the modern world. We were founded in 2000. We were acquired by Hitachi Group in 2021, and as Global Logic, we have about over 29,000 employees in over 18 different countries. So going on to your first question, Matt, kind of what happens to your kind of CV once you apply online? So once a role has been approved by the stakeholder, it's then on to our automatic tracking system. And you can apply in a kind of various ways through either our career page, which is our company website, or through LinkedIn, or through the job portals that we kind of advertise the roles on. So if you saw a role on our company website, your CV will be logged on to our database against the role that you applied for with the date and time. And whoever the role belongs to within our kind of talent acquisition function, they will screen the CV, have a look at the CV, read over the CV, and kind of make sure it matches some and hopefully all the kind of prerequisite skills needed for the role. If you applied for the role via LinkedIn or the various job portals, your application comes to us via email. So once we have the CV and we've read through all the CVs for that particular role, we will then kind of sort the candidates out, matching kind of the highest matching candidates first. And so if your skill set and experience match the key requirements, then you'll get shortlisted by one of us and then be contacted by them via email or phone. Once you set up the kind of the interview day and time. We'll then call you, have a qualification call, which normally lasts between 20 and 30 minutes, to introduce Global Logic, to kind of talk to you and introduce you about the specific role and the opportunity on offer within our organisation. We then kind of went over your skill set, your experience, and kind of see if there's any synergy with regards to the role and the opportunity that we have and your kind of current skill set and experiences. And then kind of talk to you about the various drivers of why you're kind of looking for an opportunity or open for a discussion with regards to this role. And then obviously answer any questions you have with regards to our company, the opportunity and culture within our business. And then if both sides of the core match and you think you're a good fit for the role and I think you're a good fit for the role, I will then kind of write a summary to the stakeholder and send your CV with a summary by email, and hopefully get a call with the stakeholder and discuss why I think you're suitable for the opportunity, and then hopefully book you in for the first stage interview.
Okay, all right, brilliant, thank you. So, what if you don't mind me asking, like, what kind of applicant numbers are you used to? Obviously, I mentioned at the top of the show, you know, sometimes you can see 250 people applying for jobs. How does it look from your side?
It varies from role to role, but say, for example, we have an STEC role or a test architect role, looking at probably around about 30 to 50 CVs coming into our applicant tracking system. And then obviously, like I mentioned, we have other channels with regards to job boards and LinkedIn, and then we get another 10 to 20 plus on top of that.
Okay, and then what's the sort of sweet spot in terms of so you've got, you know, let's say 50, 60 applicants. What does that sort of cut down to in the next stage of the process? Like, what number are you aiming for? Have you got like a kind of number in mind to think, well, you know, we want to try and present and move forward with X number of people?
I don't really have a figure in mind. It depends on the quality of applicant. Normally, for particular roles, we're looking at 4 or 5.
Okay. Do you use any kind of sorry, I'm going straight into a number of questions here, but it's just so interesting. So, do you use any kind of like technology to help you do that initial screen of that biggest number of applicants?
Not at the moment. We have got some technology coming in, but we're not too sure yet with regards to kind of AI, etc. But no, we look through all the CVs that we get through our inbox or through our applicant tracking system.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Nice one. Cheers, Andrew. I'm sure we'll come back to revisit some of that, but I appreciate it. Okay. So hi, Kika. Welcome. So you're going to come at this from a slightly different angle because you're obviously a head of QA at the moment. You're effectively a hiring manager. So how does it look for you?
Yes. Hello, Matt. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Kirtika Ganesan. You can call me Kika. So yes, Matt, from a hiring manager, I'd say that I have worked in companies where we didn't go out to recruit us. Essentially, our HR team would essentially be the first level of screening panel. And also worked in like huge organizations where we had multiple recruiting agencies. And we use something like the ATS system, automated tracking system for the applications which we receive for a job. So I'd say that from a hiring manager view, there could be instances where I am not going to a recruiting agency. Even with like bigger companies, there could be internal job boards, because if you have like a big company, there are multiple locations, people apply on the internal job boards for the job. And then you'd be seeing firsthand how the CV looks like. And I'm majorly interested in the career aspiration. because I feel like career and a job are different. Career is like a long time thing. What is that which drives you to actually get up in the morning and then do the work which you do? And a job or a particular role might be one means of going or like adding on to your career. So why do they want this role? Why not the other role? So the major motivation, that's what I would look for in a CV or in a cover letter, or if it is like through a recruitment agency where they are going to like suggest that, okay, you know what, we have gone through this CVs and these are like some of our top candidates who we think are the good fit, then that would be one of the first sort of like questions which I ask. Why do they want to be working in the company and also for this role?
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry to interrupt. So we're gonna move on to talk more about things like how people stand out and what people should put in their CVs. And as a hiring manager, you're perfectly placed to help us with that. What I'd like to try and look at the moment is, so just so we can kind of understand the process, so people who are watching along can understand when they send their CV somewhere. When do you first get sight of it, and what's happened to that? You mentioned before about the talent acquisition teams doing some screening. How does that work? Are you involved in guiding them on how you want those screened? Because I'm assuming you don't want 200 CVs in your inbox, but yet 200 people might have applied. So how are you getting the people into your inbox that, frankly, you actually want to see? Like, how does that process work?
Okay, so if we are like using a recruitment agency for that, say, then first we vet out the recruitment agency, like whether they are like leaders or do they understand the space where we are hiring, and so that's like one important aspect. First, once we get that, okay, the recruitment agency, like specifically, I am in the testing space. So we are like, okay, do they understand shift left, or like because there would be certain aspects which the candidates would talk about exploratory testing based on if it is like a STET role, what are like the test design techniques or the automation principles they would be using. So some of these sort of like buzzwords, it's not just buzzwords, but then actually they can relate to if a candidate talks to them saying that, yes, I have done this, I have done such a role, I have got this experience. So that is the first level of engagement with the recruitment agency, feeling that, okay, they are like good partners to work with, they understand what we do. Next is, once we get the CVs from them, then there is also that level of detail where we go saying that, okay, you know what, we have a hybrid working policy. So there needs to be people need to be there in 2 days or 3 days in office. Is that okay? So there are certain criteria, not only the technical skills, but culturally, how we work, how big is the team, that sort of a thing. So that would be briefed with the recruitment agency, so the candidate person knows about it, so they don't waste their time coming in for an interview or even like engaging with the first level phone sort of like interviews. So there are specific questions maybe, and then once I get the CV, I'll pass it on to my team, especially if they are going to be working in a specific. I'll pass it on to them just to get a feel of whether this candidate might be a good fit, whether the tech stack is okay. Do you think it's good enough for them to be called into an interview as well? So I take a look, but also my team takes a look, and we kind of like assess, okay, yeah, let's go on with this person. And during the interview, we'd also decide who would be there in the panel for that person as well.
Okay.
Does
So
that
you do.
answer your question?
No, it does definitely. Yeah. I mean, you were talking a lot there about sanity checking of suppliers, and specifically about agencies and using specialist agencies. And I'm obviously a massive advocate for that. Of course, I will be. But I think one of the things that I'd be curious to know is when the process doesn't involve an agency, because I guess, sadly, from my perspective, I'm always aware that it doesn't always involve an agency. A lot of the time, these people apply to you direct, or you go out and you have campaigns to bring these people to you directly. How can you screen for something like flexibility on hybrid working? Because one of the things that people often comment on LinkedIn is that although the number says it's 250 applicants, actually when you really did sort of deep dive into that number, let's say, for example, 150 of those live 100 miles away, so they're never going to be able to do the job. So is there a way that your sort of internal systems prevent those candidates from getting through to you?
I'd be honest, it's not like that intelligent. Let's say that,
Yeah.
because that is a part, especially if you are having like a good recruitment agency, they are like a partner in the whole process. So they actually do the hard work for you, and then they screen the candidates and then give you a first-hand report. But if not, then as I said, there would be somebody like in a HR team or like the talent acquisition team who would probably like go through that initial screening process. So it might be just like a 15 to 20-minute call with the candidate if they think that the candidate is like a good match.
Yeah.
But again, if suppose because it's like remote working, and there might be candidates that who are willing to relocate. It's about whether they have called out on the CV, or have they like written it out in a cover letter, or maybe in an email, whatever source they are like trying to say that, you know what, I understand that this job is 200 miles away from where I am right now, but then I am willing to make that switch given the opportunity, or something like that, to go along with just not just the CV, but then they have actually understood the job advert, they understand what the role is, and they are able to make that extra step. So certain items can't come through, so that's why we'd be able to like talk to the person. But again, if the candidate are able to make it like highlight it in such a way that we don't have to fish for that information, then that's like a immediate win, because all about communication, isn't it? When you apply for a CV, you're marketing yourself, so just put it out there saying that yes, I am willing to do that extra step. And you mentioned the interesting point, that's like 250 or even more, when you see a LinkedIn job advert or somewhere else as well, like once you start applying, you can see that there are like the numbers increasing as well, and like, oh, there is already 700 applicants, why should I apply? I'd say that apply, because most of the times it would be that they wouldn't have like visa sponsorship, or there could be certain items, or people might be like they'll click it, but they wouldn't go through the entire process, because like the entire process is you have to just click and fill in your basic details, upload a CV, or use it as your LinkedIn as your resume. Maybe people don't complete even like the 3 or 4 steps which they need to do. There is also the easy click. All of these clicks kind of like get accelerated, and then the numbers show. So but on the other side, just because there is like so many layoffs, that's quite unfortunate, but that's how the current market situation is. What we are currently seeing is there are increase in the number of candidates, but the quality of the candidates who we say that, okay, out of this 500, maybe 20% are good enough for us to take them to the next level of screening and then go through it. There are candidates who are like equally good, so it is hard out there currently, I would say, because many companies have got like a hiring freeze. So but don't be discouraged by the numbers, just apply, and then put your best foot forward.
Yeah. No, I thank you. I completely agree as well. I echo those sentiments. Obviously, high applicant numbers doesn't necessarily translate to a high number of suitable candidates. The reality is that it's easier than ever to apply for jobs online now, but that doesn't necessarily make it any easier for any of you in the jobs that you do. Thank you. Ross, welcome. You okay?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Good.
So yeah, I'm head of talent at IDS. For those that don't know, IDS, we're a data quality, data integration solution company. We generally just help improve data accuracy and drive more value from data in general. What happens to your CV once you apply online? Really interesting actually listening to, both responses, but Andrew, is it sort of specifically just the differences between a larger organization, which Andrew works at, and IDS, which is a bit smaller? So I suppose my first point to that question is it does depend where you apply. So there's obviously different avenues that you can apply from. So LinkedIn, job board, direct, all of those should end up within a similar sort of position, but they do actually have different processes for you to end up there. LinkedIn, for example, when you apply, your CV can end up mostly in two places. It can either go directly to the inbox of the person who put the job ad up, or it can go to the company's generic careers mailbox, wherever they have set that up. On the other hand, if you apply direct from a company's website, generally speaking, that would just go directly to a careers inbox. So it does depend where you apply. And I would say neither have sort of more benefits over the other, but there can be a slightly different process from that. Once you have sort of hit that apply button, and it has gone into that mailbox, hopefully then someone should be reviewing it. And it was interesting what Andrew was saying, that obviously bigger company, they have multiple people who will be doing those reviews, whereas within IDS, it is pretty much just myself that is part of the talent function. So that all boils down to myself to do the reviewing. So with all the applicants that are coming through, there is a lot of reviewing that takes place. Andrew mentioned in terms of the numbers of applicants. So you are going up against, at the moment, at least a lot of other people. And then my role then is to sort of shortlist all the applicants that have applied through all the different processes, and try and come up with top 5, top 10. Those are the people that I would try to call, and then create a shorter list from that to send through to hiring managers.
Okay, so you mentioned there was a few different ways that they can apply. If we put the sort of agency route to one side for a second, just focus on LinkedIn and job adverts and direct applicants to your LinkedIn inbox, your email address, referrals from employees, which may well through. They all sort of get pulled together, do that, and then you kind of create your shortlist from there.
So if you apply directly from a website, I mean, I actually might be speaking specifically to IDS's processes, or others may do it slightly different. But if you apply through a website, IDS's website, for example, that will go straight onto our ATS, our CRM system, where they'll sort of be pulled, and you can do keyword searches, etc., and look through that. LinkedIn, I think Andrew mentioned as well, they just come to your email inbox. There may be ways that you can sort of do some integration. I'm not too sure there, but for LinkedIn, it just goes to an email inbox. So you sort of have to sift through those sort of by hand or using the sort of recruiter tool. So there's sort of two different functions there for you to review the applicants.
Is keyword searching, would you say that's still a big part of the kind of screening process? It
can be. It's probably more at the sort of headhunt level. If you've applied, I generally wouldn't search through applicants on keywords. It's probably more of a personal choice of the person doing the reviewing. Keywords generally, depending on the role, are probably still important to have on your CV. I know we've sort of briefly touched on sort of AI screening CVs. Keywords are going to be a big part of that as well. So to have keywords in a CV is still important, whether or not it is something that it forms a big part of that screening process.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I mean, obviously we all work in tech, and ultimately skills are important alongside other types of experience. And a lot of times to understand skills, you have to look for certain words, which is why I asked the question. But I get it. You're saying that there's more to it than that, and that it's a bit more nuanced, which I think people will probably be pleased to hear, to be honest. So thank you. So the next one is so important. And, I'm sure we all speak to sort of job seekers quite regularly who become pretty kind of bewildered with looking at these numbers and applying for jobs regularly and getting no response, or getting automated response to say they're not suitable. If we try and look at what we feel is like the best way of standing out for a candidate, if you've got some kind of like top tips to share, I think that'd be really useful. Andrew, if I go to you first on that one.
Sure. I mean, I think obviously there's a lot of competition out in the market at the moment, especially in IT, as we just mentioned. And I think people or candidates, need to really tailor their CV to the actual role that you're applying for, and not kind of just send a generic CV. So highlight the skills, have a look at the job spec, highlight the skills, your experience, where you've used those skills and technologies, and kind of highlight the relevant work experience that kind of matches the job spec or the advert that you're applying to, as it were. Also, I would say kind of quantify achievements on your CV to kind of demonstrate the impact you've had on kind of previous roles. So basically not just kind of a wish list, so not a wish list, just a kind of a list of technologies, kind of other aspects of your role. Looking at your achievements is by far the best way of, not talking about myself, to kind of gauge how competent the candidate is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, kind of ensure your online presence is up to date. So what I mean by that is your LinkedIn profile and any other platforms that you use, because amazingly, when I speak to candidates, I look at their CV, I also look at their LinkedIn profile as well. And if that's not up to date and it's not kind of matching their CV, that's always a kind of a red flag for me. Other ways, if you know the hiring manager, or if you know the recruiter, have a look at their kind of LinkedIn and see if you're connected to them, and try and get a referral from some of your connections to introduce you to that relevant person. That's always a good way of standing out as well, because that's kind of a referral from one of my connections, as it were.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that some people kind of recommend, so you mentioned a scenario where you might know someone who works there. If you don't know someone, but you've highlighted who it is who's hiring for that role, would you recommend or condone them trying to engage with that person directly, as well as applying through the official route?
I mean, ideally, yeah, apply through the official channels. However, if that person does know someone within the organisation, they can go through that path. But 9 times out of 10, that individual within the company or the hiring manager will actually refer their application back to us.
Yeah, because ultimately, it's your team and your responsibility to do that first screen and that first kind of selection process, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, Kika, over to you. Any kind of like top tips for people who want to stand out in a saturated market?
Sure. I kind of agree with what Andrew said. List out the key competencies on the CV, and also talk about the achievements rather than like the duties, what you did for the role. But I feel like once you have a CV, you need to have like a strong summary. So the first part of your CV should be like what you aspire to be. That sort of like passion point should come across. So that is why you are applying, what you are. And then the bottom part would be whatever you have done so far. So the first part of your CV talks about the future, and then the next part of your CV talks about your past or like your present. And if you're able to tailor that, then that would be good, because when you're like anybody is looking at your CV, they just look at the top part, and if it is interesting enough, then people would like go through the rest. So you need to make your the person looking at your CV like compel them to read further, so they are like more interested in the CV, want to know about the person, and then want to get an interview set up with the person, because they are like really, they want to know the person more, and they might think that, okay, you know what, this person would be the perfect candidate. So I can't emphasize enough about like the summary section in a CV, and then even if you are able to list your key competencies, and then specifically around tech, because I've been in tech for over 17 years, I'd say that have an online portfolio. If you have did something on Git or contributed to any open source projects, or like specifically around testing, you don't need to do everything in automation. Automation is not testing. I can't stress that enough. But you can do lots of other things if you have some exploratory sessions, the test charters, or there could be instances where you have like gone through the documentation for some tool or a particular project, and you have like contributed to it, added stuff onto it. Then by all means make that a part of your portfolio if you write blogs. Because now everyone can say what they have to say. LinkedIn posts. So LinkedIn again, so many people use LinkedIn, not only recruiters, but also agencies, the recruiting managers, their peers. And it also kind of like tells you about, okay, what is this person's interest. Um, and when I haven't used an agency, I've got like the LinkedIn Premium, or and then you go and look at the competencies. You could list out the skills. So there are like top 10 skills can be listed out on LinkedIn. So you could do if you are a headhunter, you could like search for your keywords, and then you would get like a list of profile who kind of like matches the instance as well. I think like Ross slightly mentioned on it. It may not be once you have applied for a job, but then if somebody wants to know whether there is a ideal candidate, because if it is like a niche market, somebody wanted to get a candidate for a big data thing, or like a technology like Hadoop or like something like that, it's quite niche. So people can go in and then type those keywords. So having a good LinkedIn profile helps. And also having your brand out there. You have to market yourself. CV is one way of marketing, but then there are other ways to market. So if you're doing that and you're sharing your knowledge, then that means that all that would become like a visibility factor. That would be like the standout characteristics, because in tech world, communication, working together, sharing knowledge, innovation, creativity, adhering to the deadlines is all like welcomed. And if you're able to showcase some of those items, because you can't put everything on a CV. You can't say that you can work well with others, or you could talk about certain instance. But if you wrote a blog post about how you guys have like tackled a particular challenge as a team and came out victoriously, or lessons learned, or anything like that, then small things, it all adds up. It kind of like gives a holistic picture, and it also paints a picture which your CV can't. So yeah, build a online profile. Invest your time in doing activities other than what you do in your team as well. Invest in communities are like fab. If you talk about like testing, Ministry of Testing is great. And then there are so many agile communities. There are so many conferences, meetups. Even if you are not contributing, if you are consuming the content, you could write a review or like a feedback session. I'm sure like many people listening to this, they are all interested into better in their career or better in their role. That's why they are listening to it, isn't it? So yeah, if you are taking that extra step, make sure you are able to quantify it and then put it in a view that your hiring manager or anybody else is like actually get to see that, and they say, oh, this person takes that extra step, goes the extra mile. That person can do this, so maybe we should take a gamble. Because when a hiring manager is saying, I want this person in the team, they are taking a gamble.
Mhm.
So you just make it worthwhile for them and also for you.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. Thank you. You're absolutely right. I mean, ultimately every new hire is a risk to an extent. But the better the picture you paint of yourself, and you just mentioned that there are a few of the ways or a few of the places where you can paint that picture, whether it be on GitHub, LinkedIn, at community events, writing blogs, appearing on shows like this, help for people to understand who you are that little bit more, because the CV is basically just a bunch of words, but unfortunately that is people's initial foot in the door. in almost every job application, and that's why it's so difficult. So yeah, completely agree with growing an online presence.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I just want to add one more thing as well. I don't know whether anyone does this. I haven't seen anyone do this, at least when I was like interviewing for any candidates, but I do it. And it has been like quite positive, at least in my career. That is, I've applied for like testing position. Testing is my jam. So whenever I'm like looking out for the interview preparation, or like even when if I think that, oh, this company is like really good, I wish I could get a role in here. I go through their websites, their recent achievements, or any other like Twitter or like the LinkedIn posts and stuff like that. And I try to find bugs. And then what I'll do is I'll like, okay, you know what? I looked at your website, and then I've got all of this. So there are so many aspects, like it could be actual functional issues, or it could be like the accessibility ones or the user experience ones. And I wish like more people did that. Then if I am like a hiring manager, if I get that, because even when you're on a job site, if you go to like big companies, or like you're applying for something, you could attach additional documentation. You could put that in, and then you could say that, oh, you know what, I found this, maybe it is useful to you. You start doing your job even before you have got a job. If you are able to do that, I don't know whether it applies to all the areas, but definitely it does apply for tech.
Love it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, do that, because that will make you memorable. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, that person did this, nobody else did it. So you know what? If you are able to relate, and you're able, because the hiring manager wants somebody filled in, the recruitment agency, like that person wants somebody to be like fill that position as well, because it would be a win-win situation. So you just like apply yourself in the position that you have already got the job. And maybe it may not apply for everything, but you have a company, you have like a role you really wanted. Do go the extra mile, do that, be creative. Nothing is stopping you. So it's all there, out there, public. So you can definitely yeah, look at the developer docs. I have found like so many gaps in that, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I looked at your developer doc. I made this API call, and it didn't work. Maybe you should check that. So yeah, that one is like really really good, and it actually works. It shows that you care.
No, I think that's great, definitely, and absolutely relatable to the QE Babble audience. So thank you, Ross.
Sure, I'll try not to sort of cover points that have already been mentioned, but top one, which I think in fact both mentioned, is to tailor your CV to the role you're applying. But just to go a bit into the reasons for that, the person who is going to be looking at your CV may not be a QE person, and so to have your CV sort of scream out the role that you are applying for is going to be essential just to get through that first screening stage. It's not always sort of implicit, the stuff that you have done. It needs to be said explicitly within your CV. And obviously keywords can be a big part of that as well. Another point, which I don't think has been mentioned, but is just to make your CV easy to read. The first word of the job is quality. And if your CV, which we have found many times, if your CV is littered with spelling mistakes, different fonts of different sizes, different colors, like randomly through a CV, a big red flag goes up instantly, especially, as I said, the first word is quality. There's going to be documentation that you're going to need to do, and that's just a red flag, and especially with AI tools at the moment, that there's just not really an excuse to have a poorly written, formatted, worded CV. Last point from me, I think it has been touched on, but is that the network and personal branding side. I would definitely encourage, if you have applied and you know the hiring manager, and this is probably going to open me up to be bombarded with messages from applicants, but I would say definitely, if you can see who the hiring manager is, drop them a message, a connection, and try to be sort of unique in terms of how you speak to them. I think LinkedIn can give you a generic message. Delete that, start one from scratch, sort of say the role that you've applied for, say why you think you would be a good fit, and ask them to sort of consider your application. If someone does that with me, which I do get from time to time, instantly my attention is drawn to them, I will go and drop what I'm doing pretty much and look at their profile. Are they a good fit? Yes, I'll reply and arrange a conversation with them. So you sort of almost can skip the queue in terms of the applicants, and you're sort of right in the hiring manager's face and getting their attention. So they would be my top 3 tips.
Yeah, that's a really good one there, actually. And you mentioned about the quality of the CV in terms of spelling, font sizes, or font size. I think I did a post a couple of weeks ago about this, and one of the things that I think people absolutely need to do is when they revisit their job search because they've decided that they want to move on or whatever's happened, they often pick up their CV from when they were last looking and when they were last looking before that, and they basically just bolt on the newest bit to an old CV. And really, what you must do is you must kind of read through the whole thing again and make sure it's fit for purpose as a single document rather than as a document that's been, in some people's cases, obviously written over a 20-year period, because it's got to be fit for purpose for now rather than being fit for purpose for 10 years ago. So yeah, if you're sitting there and you've got 50 people coming into your inbox and there's a good candidate, but it's littered with spelling mistakes and issues around how it looks, then it's not going to be a good first impression, and that's an easy fix, isn't it? Some of them take longer, but that's actually quite a quick fix.
Definitely. And the amount of times not the amount of times, but I have sent profiles to our sort of, getting through the screening stage onto the next step, our head of QA or whoever it may be, because I've spoken with the candidate. I know that they're good for the job, but that hiring manager says, no, the CV can't do it if they can't get the basics right at this stage. It's not point. So it's, as you say, easy fix.
Yeah, I've been there as well, and I think it's potentially due to the sector we work in. Again, just going back to Kika's point there, a lot of the people that the hiring managers who are listening to this and are relevant to this audience are bug finders. They find faults and they want to look for things that are wrong, and obviously spelling mistakes, etc., fall into that category. So it can have a reflection on their perception of that person. So yeah, thank you for that. We've had some really good questions come in while we've all been chatting away. So if it's okay, I want to move on to try and have a look at some of those. There's been some great stuff that's come in, so thanks everyone for doing that so far. Let me see if I can just pick out one here. Here's one. So I'll flash it up on the screen. So Ashwin has said here, so thank you, Ashwin, for your question. Under what conditions may a CV get rejected by an ATS, even if it contains the requirements mentioned in the job description? So, okay, so the candidate's got the right skills, but for what reason would an ATS reject that candidate? Can I ask you, Andrew, on that one?
I'm going to be honest, Matt. Our ATS doesn't do that, to be honest.
Okay, right, fair enough.
So
yeah.
all the applicants and all the CVs that come through our ATS are logged on against that role. So there is no way that particular CV will get rejected in any way.
Yeah. Anyone else got a thought on that?
Yeah, so an ATS is an applicant tracking system. Generally, that doesn't automatically reject CVs by itself. I think what Ashwin may be asking is, why would a candidate be automatically rejected? And I know if you apply on LinkedIn, there can be certain questions that can be asked, same as job sites. And one of those is going to be, a sponsorship opportunity. If a question is asked, do you have full working rights in the UK? Do you need sponsorship? Depending on the answer to that question, that could get automatically rejected if the role doesn't offer sponsorship, for example. So I think that's one example of what Ashwin is meaning, but it's not necessarily automatically rejected by the ATS. It could be other parts of the process that do that.
Yeah, because it's by their very nature, they've got some automatic controls set in there, haven't they? So there would be a reason why it was rejected and why it hasn't gone through to the next stage.
I mean, LinkedIn has that feature.
Yeah.
So when you post a role on LinkedIn Recruiter or whatever, the individual who posts a role up can actually have certain criteria, prerequisite criteria for the CV to be logged on to that role. And if they don't match the criteria, then the CV may get rejected.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not sure how that works. I do that. I do the same. I'm not sure how that looks from the candidate side. Whether when they go through and answer those questions, whether they're aware that if they answer those questions with the responses that we're not looking for, whether they know that they'll get an automatic rejection.
They're not aware.
No,
they're not aware. It doesn't say. It just asks them to answer the question.
So there you go, and that's and that's one of those common misconceptions with that high number of applicants that people see. So 250 people apply, but actually, when we're going through and we're looking at who we've got to consider, that number's a lot less than 250 because they've not passed through the first questions, which can relate to any one of a number of things. Cool, thank you for that.
I had a different view on it. Like,
sure.
I don't know whether this is like because I have worked in like a big company, and then we use different sort of ATS. That's like not recruitment, but then it's for the company itself. If suppose the candidate has like 100% criteria matching, because there would be like certain keywords which would be like, say for example, if the job we need a Java and things like that, and then there are like certain ones which you put it in the job description as well. If it is like more than the norm, say 85% or something like that, then it would flag saying that this is like too close, so maybe it's not good enough. That's like it's almost too good to be true sort of like category, because there are instances where somebody could put in the keywords and then mark it as like a white space and stuff like that. So the system kind of like tries to intelligently scan those sort of like CVs from the ones which are like genuine. Because to be honest, I haven't seen a job spec which would be like the dream role, or if I wanted like a job spec where I could tick like 10 things. If they ask for 10 things, if I wanted to tick 10 things, then I have to write the job spec myself for my role. I don't know. So if you are like 70 to 75% for that job spec, then I'd say apply. Most people do it. And as part of that, we had an exercise as well, like from gender perspective, whether women apply for like our jobs. So as a hiring manager, I was like involved in how to make our job specification more friendly and more open, so that we get more diverse employees applying for the job. So that could be words like say for example being an expert or like fearless, that those sort of roles or like that words have a masculine tone, so maybe female candidates wouldn't apply for it. um, so there are these ATS systems out there. So if you over engineer, if you are like looking for just the buzzwords, you don't really apply to what the job actually says. The buzzwords are important, there are keywords which needs to be there, but then don't over engineer your CV. So sometimes the ATS would flag it as like, hey, I don't think this is like genuine.
Okay, thank you for that. Again, we have got some great questions. I'm going to try and, if you can, just rattle through a few of these fairly quickly. Mandeep said here, hi, it'd be good to cover off auto buzzword matching with a role and how that works. We did speak about keyword searching previously. I think probably what Mandeep's talking about there is whether we use a system that we basically put in a series of keywords and then it gives us back a shortlisted group of candidates. Andrew, from your side, say let's say you've got 100 people who applied for the job. Can you then go in and basically do a sort of Boolean search on that 100 to bring back a shorter number of people to then speak to?
Not necessarily through the role, but if you were doing a candidate search on our kind of automatic tracking system for a particular role, then buzzwords will pop up with the relevant candidates. But if the candidates are on the role, on the job, we can't do a search for specific words like that, no.
Okay.
To add to that, Mandate's question is probably more around CV searching as opposed to application. But one function, especially on if you apply for a role on LinkedIn and there are 60 plus applicants on that, one function LinkedIn offers a hiring manager is to sort those CVs via relevance. I don't know what the back end of that is, but I would imagine it's to do with how many words in your CV match the words of the job description, which comes back to keywords. Obviously depends if the hiring manager is using the relevance function, but there is that function to be used. And I'm sure there will be ATSs that can also do a similar sort of thing where they match CVs based on relevance. And that is the keywords, but I don't know the sort of technical back end of how that works, but it's going to be keyword related.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I've got a comment here. I think it's more of a comment than a question from Steve. So Steve Moss, head of QA that I know well. So thanks, Steve, for watching along. And I'll just read this one out. So he said approaches that he might consider upon receiving the CVs. Will he have enough time to review all the CVs? And I think, as we've said already in this session, the reality is that it's going to be difficult to do that. So you start off by doing a scan, a quick scan of who's in there, and then trying to bring that down to an optimum number of candidates. My initial goal is to find 3 candidates I'm interested in talking to. And if I've found 3 candidates in the first group of CVs, I'll do a further review to see how they compare on the initial CVs, and see if I have a good enough pool to proceed and start with those candidates. So I think what Steve's saying there is that he'll do an initial scan through the applicants that he's been given, either applied to him directly or through a talent function, and then try and get an effective shortlist together, work with that shortlist, and I guess if for any reason it doesn't get the results that they're hoping for, then they'll go back to that bigger list and bring some more people into it, which I think is good to know. A good insight there from Steve. Another question here for the panel is, sorry, one second. Here we go. So do recruiters generally focus on first page results on job boards? I'm not sure whether, Andrew, Ross, you use job boards for retrieving candidates.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. First page results. I suppose the broad answer to that question is no. First page results is just the first page that you look at. But if you don't find them there, I certainly would continue until I get to the end, or the candidates become sort of irrelevant to what the initial search was. So it comes back to the keyword matching, because you want to be on that first page because they are going to be the first people that are looked at by recruiters. But a search shouldn't really finish after the first page.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, also from I think Ross's and I point of view, looking on a CV job board, for example, it depends how good our Boolean search is. So we don't want to put a generic, say for example, tester, because that will come up with up to 1,000 people CV. So we really drill down on the Boolean search with the specific skills that we need. Then hopefully that will bring out not as many people as a generic search, as it were.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I don't know this person's name, unfortunately, but it's an interesting point. Kika, I'll ask you this one if that's okay. So, number of candidates in the current market, themselves included, have 20 years experience or more in different organisation types, varying different software development life cycles, automation design. This means their experience is very rich and very varied. So how does the panel see this depth of experience as a differentiator? So can what this person has said here differentiate them from everyone else? I mean, I guess there's probably other people applying who've got a similar amount of experience.
Yeah. So I'd say that talk about the achievements. So when we talk about 20 plus years, so that means that the candidate has has grown. So I would like to see the growth mindset, or like the growth in the career as well. Like, where did they start? How did they gain the new skills? How are they still learning? And because they are supposed to be like a senior person in that sort of like a role, how are they getting other people trained? What sort of mentoring are they doing? How are they empowering their team members, or how are they coaching? What sort of ideologies do they hold, and how they maintain it with the industry's trends as well? Because like in tech, everything moves fast. So are they able to adapt? How does change look like? Especially in this sort of like experience, I would say that what is the data, what is the metrics, what percentage. So if they say that they have worked in various SDLCs, I wouldn't want to know about like the waterfall SDLC, because not many companies have got waterfall. So if my company is looking at an agile model, and I would like to know, okay, how have they brought about like a transformation? Agile model is always challenging in terms of managing the software development, because everybody is working in sprints. So the entire essence of the customer journey will be broken down into small stories. So how are they making sure that the customer gets what they want, even though they are just working on a small part of it? If it is like a payment system, the payment system is getting a basket ready on a John Lewis website. Yeah, so that is a merchant website. Get the basket ready, do the checkout payment, and then get the goods. So if this is the whole payment journey which the company is delivering, it might be that there are 100 stories in order to do that work, and there could be like 7 different teams working. So how do they actually make sure that this entire journey gets delivered even after 7 different or 8 different teams work on it? So what are the metrics behind it? If they say we have delivered this project, then okay, how many bugs went out, or like how quickly were they able to revert an issue, or if they found an issue, how quickly were they able to resolve it in production? So any sort of like statistics, data, metrics around it, and also how they have influenced the team. Those sort of information I would like to see in their CV. I don't want to see their roles and responsibilities saying that, oh, you know what, I did all this, I did all that. What did you actually achieve? Because that should have been like a given. What did you do more? That is what I want to see from their CV.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so achievements and outcomes. So 20 years of experience, you could write a massive CV, but you need to look at what outcomes and what the net benefit was.
Yeah, quantifiable outcomes as well. It's not just outcome, quantifiable outcome. And specifically, if they are like much senior, I want to know what they are doing in a mentoring, coaching sort of like side as well.
Yeah. Okay. So just probably time for one last question. We've got here, and Andrew, I think you may have mentioned this point, so I'll ask you if that's okay. This is Zaif. So hi, Zaif. Thanks for watching along. When you say highlight skills, should this be within a summary section?
Yes, I mean, I think Kiki's already kind of approached this. I think a CV is you, the individual, selling yourself. It's like a 1 minute elevator pitch, really. So I would put the skills section at the top of the CV in a kind of a summary. So what you've used, how you've used it, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Any final thoughts for anyone? We're just about to run out of time. Thank you all for joining us. Any final thoughts on like top tip for people to get noticed?
Keep applying. It is a tough market at the moment, but it can be a bit of a numbers game as long as you're getting the quality aspect correct. And yeah, there's also other avenues than simply the sort of the passive applying. You can be more active, as I said, by trying to speak to hiring managers and networking. Incorporate all of those things, and your chances are greatly increased.
I think
try and go to meetups.
Yeah.
And network yourself as well around the meetup, because your name will slowly but surely get out there, as well as your CV.
Kika, anything from you?
I'd say that be creative, don't be afraid, because I have seen people not write an actual CV or have a one-page CV and do a video version of what they think their values are and what they want their prospective employer to be. So CV is not just the page document or like a PDF or a Word document. So think beyond that and use the avenues which you have got, because there are literally loads. All you want is a job. Make sure you find one, and also are able to convince that you are the right person for the job as well. So don't stick to the format of CV, which we all know, because it's changing.
Yeah. There's three brilliant points to finish. So be creative, think outside the box, keep applying, so be persistent. It's hard work ultimately, looking for work a lot of the time, but keep applying and keep positive. And also just get yourself out there. So get out to any meetups that you can, meet people, because connecting with them on a personal level does give you a much better chance of applying through adverts, etc. So thanks to the panel for joining us today. We've covered some great points, and I'll try and write those up and get a post out next week. Hopefully I'll see you on the next QE Babble, which will be in December. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today, and see you all soon.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.